Don't ever get caught out alone, because you never know when or where wackos like that creep are lurking. I heard he killed more than one homeless person, just stalking the streets with a hammer and a hood, bludgeoning people to death in their sleep. What's gotten into people these days?
That boy's mental.
When you first hit it, were you sure it was a dummy?
Yes.
The problem being is we've had some other people struck in the head in the exact same fashion that you struck this dummy in the head. You're going to go to Clark County.
I
What's up, YouTube? Hopefully everyone is having an amazing day today, and welcome back to some more Horror Nights. Now, the first video I made, it had like the most viewed out of all my videos I ever made, so I'm very grateful for that. So thank you to all of y'all for that. That's the reason why we're here again with another episode of HS. I think that's what I'm gonna call it, HS, short for Horror Nights. Now, it is kind of cozy in here, that's why I got my blanket on. Hopefully y'all are cozy too, but with that being said, grab something to eat, something to drink, and let's watch something scary. Alright, we're gonna start off the video with The Mirror. Now, this is made by Dark Fun Horror Shorts Films, and they have 45K. Let's get them to 1 million. See if this one has titles. It doesn't have titles. Perfect. That mirror is old. It's gonna be a mirror that controls you. Scratching himself. I gotta throw that mirror away. You knew it was hurting you. Why would you keep trying it? No. Next video. Now, has everybody ever heard of Llama Arts? Now, I probably think Llama Art was the creator of like these horror stories animated, because this is the first channel that I've seen that did that. It just started this trend where they started animating horror stories. And I don't know, for me personally, it started with Llama Art. Now this was 2021 compilation, but I probably haven't seen it. I haven't seen this channel in a while. So let's check it out and see if this is scary.
A cool breeze crept through the valley outside of Telluride, Colorado, as my friends and I unloaded the truck parked on the dirt driveway. We had recently started renting an old mining house built in the early 1900s. Most of the home had been renovated over the years, but there were still glimpses of what the house used to be. The exterior of the home was painted a bright yellow and adorned a blood-red door. The yard was abundant, with lush green grass, minus the few brown patches that littered the ground. In the corner of the yard sat a dilapidated gazebo filled to the brim with landscaping equipment. I stood facing the house, admiring the quaint ambiance it seemed to exude. I felt something hit my back and spun around. My brother, William, was standing behind me with a box under his right arm. "Let's pick up the pace, we don't have all day," he said, with a little annoyance masked in his voice. Yeah, I responded, and started walking to the back of the truck. My other two friends, Elijah and Leon, were in the process of stacking some boxes on a dolly. "Hey man, take this to my room," Elijah said as he handed me a large box. I resituated it in my arms and gripped it. As I did so, I could hear glass clanging inside and a strong, familiar odor starting to leak out. "Hey man, be careful," Elijah snapped. "If you ever want to smoke again, I'd highly advise you to take it one step at a time there, champ." "Maybe if you didn't throw everything into one single box without bubble wrap, then you wouldn't have an issue of something breaking, Elijah," Leon responded. Elijah's eyes widened, as if he had just figured out the secrets of the universe. I laughed, turned around, and proceeded into the house. The floorboards creaked as I stepped onto the warped living room floor. I surveyed my surroundings of the old rustic home as I headed to Elijah's bedroom. Only 2 interior rooms had been renovated in the entire house, one being the kitchen, which had marble countertops and new appliances.
Hold on.
The other being my room. I was the one who found the home on the market, so respectively I had first choice of which room I wanted to claim as my own. The other rooms, on the other hand, were still the same as they had been since the early 1900s, with dreary wooden floorboards and old chipping paint. "Dude, what the hell?" William yelled from upstairs. I quickly climbed the narrow stairway to find my brother in his room. I walked in to find what looked like to be a large lump underneath the wooden floorboards. It almost looked like Andre the Giant was buried in the middle of the room. "I told you it was an old home, Will. Things shift over time," I said, trying to hold my snickering back. "Yeah, I get that, but you didn't say that I'd have to maneuver around a speed bump," he snapped back. Damn. I took a deep sigh and turned to him. "Okay, look man, we're only gonna be here for a year. You've got plenty of room to put your bed so you're not sleeping on an incline." William turned back to the floor dejected. "That's easy for you to say. You're not staying on the cover of Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones."
Something's probably under there.
After we'd moved everything into the house, we all plopped down on the couch, beers in hand, and began our well-deserved R&R. Elijah had already begun smoking, and the room started to fill with the pungent odor. "So are we gonna be doing some ghost hunting tonight, boys?" Elijah said, as he passed the joint to Leon.
These are the type of guys
"Oh,
that die
come
first
on,
in a
you don't
horror
actually
movie.
believe that crap, do you?" Leon responded as he was rolling his eyes. "The guy blew his brains out on the front porch in the 1930s. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a ghost floating through the halls. I mean, how do you think we got such a killer deal on rent?" William said as he lifted his arms and started mimicking the sounds of a specter. "Shut up," It's all nonsense. You've just been watching too much Ghost Hunters, I responded. But anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. We need to get up early to do some cleaning. Good night, guys. I stood up and meandered to my room. In all reality, I was a little perturbed by what happened at this house. I've always been quite agnostic to my beliefs of ghosts or spirits, but I've never witnessed anything myself. The rent was super cheap for an entire house, and I wanted to save some money for a trip outside of the country. I pushed the fact that someone had ended their life to the back of my mind. I wish things would have turned out much differently. I entered my room and slid under my sheets and basked in the warmth of my bed. It had been a long day and my body ached from moving. I grabbed my phone and looked for a rain and thunder YouTube video to help me sleep, and after about 15 minutes, I crept into comfortable darkness.
Same thing.
My eyes shot open in the middle of the night. The moonlight shone through my window and enveloped my room in comforting light. I could hear creaking from the house as the wind howled outside. I tried to sit up, but found my efforts futile. Sleep paralysis was a regular occurrence in my life. It happened at least once a month due to stress and a little help from my antidepressants. At this point, I'd almost gotten used to it. I could hear what sounded like a light scratching noise coming from inside my room, and prepared myself for the usual dark figure to be standing in the corner. My eyes darted from left to right, trying to decipher where the noise was coming from. It was then I started to hear skittering, like someone or something was moving around. A cold feeling crept over my body as I started sweating profusely, my sheets becoming soaked. The skittering stopped, but was replaced by cracking, one that resembled that of broken bone. Out of my peripheral vision, I could see long, needle-like limbs protruding from my closet. They each moved slowly, tapping the wall as if they were looking for something. I then saw a large, bulbous black mass starting to show itself from the closet door. It was coated in tiny hairs and twitched almost habitually.
Now,
a loud moan echoed throughout my room as the creature finally presented itself. A spider-like entity was situated on my wall. The reason I say spider-like was because its head had been replaced with that of a human one. Its eyes were blacked out from the shadows of moonlight, and its lower jaw was removed, revealing a blotchy tongue that oozed saliva. It was about the size of a twin bed and stared at me for what seemed like hours. My heart was racing. I was begging my body to move, but to no avail. I was stuck there, in suspended torment. I tried screaming, but I was unable to make a sound. All I could do was watch the creature on my wall as it grew closer. Suddenly, it skittered to the ceiling right above me and started scratching with its two front legs, almost like it was burrowing. It then started to sink into the wall, as if the wall had turned into quicksand. First, the abdomen, then the legs. Eventually, all that was left was its mangled head staring straight at me. Those cold, dead eyes boring into my soul.
Yeah,
I could hear it moaning, and I could feel the drips of saliva hit my torso. The creature then let out an inhuman roar and vanished into my ceiling. My body was finally released, and I jolted out of my bed screaming. As I did, the house erupted into more terrified outcries coming from upstairs. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who saw something, and, unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last time either.
That's how you ended it off? Wow. Now this next one, we're just going to continue off of where we left off on Horror Shorts Party. And we're going to watch 2 of them to end off the video.
I don't know if anyone who needs this advice will be able to find this, but I'm going through the trouble of telling this story on the off chance that it will reach the right person. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm homeless. I'm posting this on a library computer to a website some kid on the street told me about. Anyone out there who's in danger of becoming homeless needs to remember what I'm about to tell them. If you have people you can trust, never leave their side, for their protection and yours. I'm usually the first guy to follow this rule, but a few weeks ago, I forgot it for just one night. I was walking down the streets of northern Las Vegas around evening time. Probably a sketchy situation for most, but I felt pretty comfortable. The bothersome police mostly left this neighborhood to its own devices, and I had quite a few friends in the area. That's just the kind of guy I am. I can make friends with almost anybody, no matter how down and out any of us get. I just found a bag of half-eaten McDonald's in a trash can, so I was ready to find a place to sit down and eat, then turn in for the night. I dragged my mat of cardboard
bag
into
of
an
McDonald's
alleyway where
in
I
the
knew a guy
trash?
named Skeg would be living. I'm sure Skeg wasn't his real name, but most homeless people in Vegas are hiding and in debt to somebody, so we almost never tell our real names. Hey, Bert, want some dumpster pizza?
Damn.
It's pretty fresh. Only if I can trade you some less than fresh hamburgers. You drive a hard bargain, Bert, but I'll have to accept. Sit down, let's divvy.
Let's divvy.
Sure is a nice night. That's just how we were, Skeg and I. It certainly wasn't a nice night. I was just saying that. The sun was setting fast and the bone-chilling nighttime air was blowing in even quicker. But we were in good spirits despite all that. We had food and company, and that was all we needed. Though I think Skeg had found himself a little booze with that pizza, because he was acting a little more freely than usual. I almost hit the jackpot in the casino today, Bert. One little inch away, and that $5 would have been 5,000. One of these days, I tell you, Skeg's gonna win it big. Oh yeah? What would you do with $5,000? You gonna invest it? Bah! All that investment crap is slow money. I'd get one of them blackjack tables and I'd clear it out. Double my money, then double it again. You know, Skeg, if somebody gave me $5, I'd spend it on food. I wouldn't gamble it away. That's how I got in the mess that I'm in. And that, Bert, is why you'll stay in the mess you're in, rotting in poverty, while Skeg is out shooting for the stars. Don't you know the sky's the limit? You can't stay stagnant. I don't need to hear this. Have a good night shooting for the stars, Skeg. I wish I could have just swallowed my pride and stayed there for the night. But in my grandstanding attitude, I made myself walk out into the cold to find a different place to sleep. I didn't feel like walking up on someone in the dark and giving them a fright, so I thought I'd just spend the night alone. I laid down my cardboard mat behind a gas station, pulled on my raggedy old blanket, and started to drift off. That's when I heard something sniffing right in my ear. Half asleep, I brushed it off and rolled over, thinking it was just a stray dog smelling my breath. Then, I don't know what, but something made me throw off my blanket. The cold air woke me up right then, and before I could pry my eyes open, I could tell just from the dead quiet that I'd slept for some time. It must have been 4 a.m., but soon enough my eyes opened and focused in, and there was a hooded man standing right over me. He wasn't moving, just looking down at me with shrouded eyes. He was holding a plastic bag for some reason. I could hear it crinkling in the wind, and it looked like he was hiding something in his sleeve. What the hell, man? What do you want? You. What do you want me for? I'm just a bum. That wacko didn't respond. He just started to lift up his arm, letting his sleeve fall back. Then, sirens started to echo from around the corner. The creep froze, glanced around in every direction, then bolted out of nowhere. I got out of there too, before the cop showed up or he came back. I decided being alone wasn't worth the hassle, so I hustled back to Skeg's alley. When I got there, he was slumped over on his side, facing the wall.
He's dead.
By then, I was freezing cold, so I did something I don't normally do.
He died.
I laid down right next to Skeg and threw my blanket over the both of us so I could capture some of his body heat. Pretty quickly, though, I could tell it wasn't working. It was like he was barely giving off any warmth at all. And what was worse,
I knew it.
His cardboard mat was wet. At first, I thought it might have rained, but then I remembered I lived in Nevada. Skeg? I threw off the blanket again and tried to shake him awake, but he didn't stir. I stood up and rolled him onto his back, revealing the worst. Skeg! 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 Skeg, man, come on, wake up! He'd been attacked. His face was caved in by several strikes from a blunt object, and all of the blood he lost onto the mat meant he was surely dead. I stood in horror. A chill ran down my spine as I made the connection between this and the guy that had woken me up. I ran straight to the only place I knew could help, the 24-hour diner 4 blocks away. I told them everything and they called the police. If I'd only stayed with Skeg that night, he'd be alive, and I wouldn't have gotten so close to death myself. Oh well, I guess he got his chance to shoot for the stars and he took it. Just goes to show how important what I said was. Don't ever get caught out alone, because you never know when or where wackos like that creep are lurking. I heard he killed more than one homeless person, just stalking the streets with a hammer and a hood, bludgeoning people to death in their sleep. What's gotten into people these days?
That boy's mental.
When you first hit it, were you sure it was a dummy? Yes. The problem being is we've had some other people struck in the head in the exact same fashion that you struck this dummy in the head. You're going to go to Clark County. I am? Why? Because you make us nervous. You do? Yeah, you do.
It's real. It is real.
The story I'm about to tell is as true as the sky is blue. And even though it happened something like 15 years ago now, I remember every detail flawlessly. I was just a high school dropout doing what it took to make ends meet. No glamour about it. Walmarts used to stay open way after dark, even in the desolate rural areas like I grew up in. I was hired in as some kind of all-around helper, doing anything and everything my bosses told me to. I tell you, I was busting my back. Most of the hours I spent in Walmart, I don't remember. I was working so hard that it all became a blur. Not many memorable occasions, except for one. There's one night I remember like it was yesterday. I'd been assigned to the clothing department for the second half of my shift, and the clock had just hit closing time. I'd spent all day sorting clothes, managing the fitting rooms, and running the register by myself. But it was finally time to start cleaning up and counting the bills in the register. I was right in the middle of counting up all the ones when the man in question stormed up to the counter with a hoodie and a pair of jeans crumpled up in his arms. He was filthy and sweaty from the warm summer night, and his elbows and knees were all scraped up. He had a cross tattoo on his forearm with a bulging vein running across it, and he wore the most raggedy stained white tank top and shorts. He threw the clothes on the counter and demanded to buy them. "Hey mister, I need to buy these clothes, alright? I got the money." I couldn't help but roll my eyes. He made me lose track of the number I was on. "I'm sorry, sir, but I just started counting the money in the register. I can't make any more transactions here. You'll have to go up to the front. You should hurry before they start closing." "I don't have time for that. I need to buy these here, now. I'm in a rush." I got a little freaked out by how suddenly his demeanor changed. I'd been working in that Walmart for long enough. I knew better than to aggravate a customer like him any further. So even though it was against policy, I rang him up with the about $300 in untraceable cash sitting right behind the counter. The man handed me a torn and crumpled $20 bill, leaving him about $3 short. I gave him an apprehensive look, but decided to just accept it and make up the difference later with some change out of my own pocket. I would normally never do that, but honestly, I felt a little bad for the guy. He looked a lot rougher than most of the customers I saw on a daily basis, and that's saying something. As soon as I gave him back the clothes, he ripped off the tags and put the jeans and hoodie on right over the clothes he was wearing. It was nighttime, but it was still over 80 degrees outside, which made that action a little strange to me. But by then it was too late. Without a word, he ran out of the store. I tried my best to get the encounter out of my mind, but it was no use. Barely 10 minutes later, a whole army of cop cars came barreling into the parking lot. They locked down the entire Crossroads Plaza and came in questioning everybody in the store. They told everyone they were looking for a convicted killer who'd escaped from prison and was on the run. And when they gave the man's description, I kicked myself. The fugitive is a white male, late 40s, wearing a white tank top and shorts. He has a cross tattoo on his arm. If you believe you have seen this man, please come forward. I had no choice but to give them a statement. I let them know he'd hassled me at the register and changed his clothes. They had me come with them to check the store's security cameras. I was extremely embarrassed, especially when the police saw how many breaks I gave the guy. But at least they were able to confirm that he was indeed the man they were looking for. To this day, I feel guilty about that night.
You just had a camera up like
I
that?
played in my head over and over again, looking for ways I could have played my cards more responsibly. I can't shake the thought that if I just stalled him for a few more minutes, or if I'd stood my ground about store policy and made him go up to the front, maybe he would have been caught. I'm always baffled that he didn't steal the wad of cash I left sitting right in front of his eyes. I know he must have been tempted, but he probably thought better of it. The worst part is, after all these years, that man is still on the loose. But when I get too down on myself for all that, there's one thing I can remember that makes me feel a little better about myself. A few nights later, while that guy was still all over the news, the story broke out that the fugitive, some guy by the name of Richard, had actually been stopped by the police on his very first day on the run. But he somehow convinced the cop that he was a jogger on the hottest day of the year. I may have been reckless, but that cop who stopped him and let him walk was just plain stupid.
You live around here, boy? What's your address?
I don't have an address.
What is? We got an escapee.
Where from?
A prison.
Prison here? No,
You know the bad thing about it?
What's that?
You'll match it up to him.
That sucks, doesn't it?
Do jog again in the future. Carry some ID with you.
All right.
That's our quick line there.
Damn. These are real. These has to be real. These are like real, but they just animated it. Alright. I'm going to give today's episode a 5. Now the reason I'm saying 5 is because it wasn't really that scary. It was entertaining, but it wasn't scary. So if y'all have any good scary videos, scary shorts that you want me to react to, please tell me in the comments. But with all that being said, hopefully y'all did enjoy this one. If y'all did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, all that good junk, and I will see you in the next Horror Night. Peace out.